you realize that anybody that knows how to use this new tool from OpenAI can now do the work of some of the highest paid consultants in the world? Today I want to show you how to use deep research for business intelligence, market research, and more, including how it differs from tools like Perplexity. I spent many hours experimenting to come up with an easy step-by-step process for getting the most out of this powerful tool. You see, while I was running my marketing agency serving some of the largest software companies in the world, I had a chance to interact with a lot of these highly paid consultants. And I've been shocked at how deep research can rival and even exceed the work I saw from some of these folks. Did you know that some scientists and economists are now starting to get papers published in true academic journals that was primarily written using tools like deep research? The first step to using deep research is to make sure that the prompt is incredibly well defined. This is a powerful tool that's going to go out and do a ton of research and a ton of work on your behalf. So you want to make sure that you're giving it as much information as you can about what you are looking to accomplish. You may even want to include in that prompt that you're looking for a McKinsey-style report as an output so it knows the level of detail and basically the style of what it's going for. But in addition to that, you want to make sure that you are clarifying the problem and highlighting the critical questions that its output must answer. It's also good practice to let it know about the audience and the scope of what you're trying to create. You want something highly detailed, or do you want just an executive summary? In the prompt, you can even provide an outline of what you want the report to cover. You may even want to tell it that you need copy for a slide deck related to that report. The prompt itself might be a page or more in the end. So why not have AI help us create that prompt? I call this the meta prompt. I'm going to jump into the cheat sheet here. I make one of these for every single video that I created. It includes everything we're going to go through today and a ton more resources that we don't have a chance to cover. There's a link in the description for this, and anybody who supports me on Patreon gets immediate access to this and well over 100 other resources just like it. So I'm going to grab this prompt. Again, this is the prompt to help us create the deep research prompt, and I'm just going to copy and paste this into ChatGPT. I'm going to select the reasoning model for this. I'm going to select the highest level. I would, whatever you have access to. If you have access to the pro mode, let's use that. And we're going to dump this in. And the example today, my wife is thinking about launching a food truck business. So I'm looking for a detailed prompt that I can use for doing some research into food truck customers in the Mid-Coast Maine area. So telling it exactly what I'm going for. I'm not just looking for a food truck report, and I'm looking for a specific food truck. It talks about what she features, which is going to be waffles, and that I want it to be a McKinsey-style report. Perplexity recently rolled out its version of deep research. You can access that by going to perplexity.ai, clicking here and clicking on deep research. One major difference is the price point. This is obviously much cheaper than the ChatGPT Pro plan. I'm excited to test this against the ChatGPT Pro Deep Research. ChatGPT is now done creating this prompt, and let me just show you how insanely detailed this thing is. It starts here, and it goes all the way down through this end of prompt section. So you can see that is like a page, 2 pages. That is just the prompt we're going to be using to create this deep research, because we want to steer it really effectively so that it's spending all that time and all that compute to generate something that we are really happy with in the end. And this is really exciting to me because I feel like we're now entering this phase where AI is getting a little trickier to use. You might argue a lot trickier to use. And when I shut down my marketing agency, this is the type of inflection point I was waiting for. I felt that work itself was going to change so drastically, I needed to spend every minute I could working with these tools. This transition has been awesome. I truly love what I'm doing now more than I ever have before. And that's really the goal of this channel, is to help as many people as I can navigate these tricky transitions that AI is bringing to all of our lives. I want to help you learn how to use these tools to create a life that you love. So I'm curious, what type of transitions have you been going through? Put them in the comments. I'm not doing that just to trick out the YouTube algorithm. I sincerely want to know. All right, so now that we've done that digging and created a prompt that we're really happy with, we need to move forward with doing the actual research. This is basically the easy part, as long as you're willing to fork out that $200 a month for the ChatGPT Pro plan. Unfortunately, that is what's required to run deep research. And for that, you only get 100 runs per month. So you want to be careful with that, because as you're going to see, this goes out and does so much research. It really works for about a half hour or more pulling together some amazing stuff. So I'm grabbing this entire prompt here, this whole thing. And again, I'll have this in the cheat sheet if you want to just use this as a template. And I'm going to copy this. I'm going to start a new chat. I'm going to click deep research, and then you want to be careful what model you're using here. I think you can technically run GPT-4, run deep research with GPT-4, but you really want to use one of these reasoning models. The O1 Pro is the best one currently, I should say. So we're going to drop that whole thing right in here. Massive prompt. We're going to run that, and it is going to ask us some clarifying questions. Every single time you do this, no matter how much information you put into that prompt, it's still going to clarify because it still wants to make sure it's going in the right track before it spends all that time in compute power. And you don't need to put in a lot of information here, but you don't want to skip this step either. So I'm going to just fill this out real quick. These are actually pretty good questions that I'm surprised were not in that prompt. Okay, here we go. We're going to run that. And this will run in the background while you go about your day, do other things even with ChatGPT. You can see it's going through these different steps. It's already looked at 6 resources. And you can see its thought pattern and exactly what it's doing over here on the right-hand side, which is really cool. All right, so this thing has run, and this is a look at the report, starting with this executive summary, going through introduction and scope, and then it goes for a very long ways here. So I'm not sure how many pages this is, but some of them have been up to about 40 pages. And it's all good stuff. You know, you tend to think that this is just AI slop, but there is a lot of good gems in every single one of these that I've created. It looked here at 14 different sources. Here is all of the activity that it went through. So it did a lot of work, and this is why you need to be very particular with that prompt that you give it. I dropped this right into a document here, and I don't know if you've ever worked with any of these high-end consultants, but this is exactly the type of thing that they turn in. I would often get handed documents like this, and it was up to my agency to do the heavy lifting to make that plan happen. So I was always a little bit jealous of these consultants, and in the end, I began to despise them a little bit, just thinking about how much they were getting paid to create these strategies that then me and my team would have to go implement and do all the hard work around. Now let's see how Perplexity does. I used that same exact prompt, that mega prompt, and the first thing I noticed, it didn't ask for any clarifying questions, which I always find helpful with the OpenAI version. It ran for just a couple minutes, 2 to 5 minutes versus ChatGPT's, 10 to 30 minutes. And it looked at a bunch of sources. So it said it pulled in about 80 some sources, which was, more than the ChatGPT version. But in the end, what it created was much shorter than the ChatGPT Pro version. You can see here, this ChatGPT Pro version is like 23 pages. This Perplexity version was only 6 pages. So it's a night and day difference. And while the Perplexity tool is cool and it is an advancement over some of the things you were previously able to access in Perplexity, the depth and sophistication of the OpenAI version is really what would allow you to create a business around this tool. I don't think the Perplexity version would be enough to do that. So now that we've created this deep research project, the hard part is to really go through it and review it to make sure that there's nothing off base here. It does not hallucinate very much at all, but if you're handing it over to a client or somebody else, you want to really make sure that it is bulletproof. If the report is related to something outside of your area of expertise, you may want to bring in an expert to help look that over. The output from these AI models is starting to get so good that there are very few mistakes in there. So I like to schedule this review session first thing in the morning when my mind's fresh. If I do it late in the day, I just start skimming over stuff and missing stuff. So while I was preparing for this video, I had a little back and forth with ChatGPT, and I asked, hey, really, what else do these consultants do? They just really create these reports and these slide decks, right? And it came back with something I thought was hilarious. It said, yes, but they do it with flair. So if this is a business model you want to move into, you're going to have to figure out some flair. I figure we could add some flair to this by adding some images using Napkin AI, which is another tool that I'm a big fan of. So back in the cheat sheet, I'm going to grab this prompt here that says, please recommend a few areas of this document that might lend themselves to visual representations. Just going to copy that, and I'm going to paste that right into ChatGPT. This is just the O4 model, so the basic ChatGPT with that prompt, and then the full guide here, which goes on and on and on and on and on and on. And ChatGPT says, hey, here are some things that you might want to consider creating visuals for. I had to nudge it a little bit and say, hey, can you return the portion of this report that I can use to create visuals? So let's grab this blurb just about tourism, copy that right into our good friend here, napkin.ai. If you haven't tried this tool, it is super cool. You can see it takes text and creates these little infographic type images from them that you can edit quite a bit. I'm gonna click New Napkin. And when you click New Napkin here, you wanna choose Blank Napkin. Otherwise, it would try to rehash what we're copying in here with its own AI. We just wanna create the visual. Dropping that in here. And then I'm going to click that little lightning bolt and see what this comes up with. I went ahead and ran a few of these into Napkin so you can see the style of the different graphics that you can create with this tool. And again, I'm just copying and pasting things straight from the guide into Napkin, and with a couple clicks just creating these graphics. So, you know, the AI is doing all the work. These bar graphs are especially helpful. And then you can easily just copy and paste, export those, and drop them right into your guide and add some flair to your consulting services. This cheat sheet is packed with a ton of good information. It goes through everything we went through here today with my process, and then it dives really deep into a full strategy for rolling out your consulting business. Looks at industry drivers and barriers to entry, finding your niche and identifying your specific clients, pricing strategies, tons of good case studies, etc. So if this high-end consulting business is something you think you might be interested in, definitely check out my Patreon, support this channel, grab this cheat sheet and over 122 others. Look at how much these people charge. I had to do some research into the average costs for these projects, but McKinsey & Company, their average price is, you know, $500,000 to $5 million plus. Boston Consulting Group, you know, starts at $250 on up to $5 million. You know, Bain & Company, you know, $500,000 up to that 10 million mark. So there's a lot of money to be made in this consulting service, and I guarantee you that very few people know how to use this deep research. So now's the time. If you're looking to make a transition in your career, this is something you can check out and explore. Next, I want you to take these ideas and think about how to make them very unique. That's the theme of the Blazing Zebra channel. Blazing, we got to move fast. Zebra, we've got to be unique. And this next video is all about how to use AI to become insanely creative. It's one of my favorite videos, so check it out. I'll see you over there.
Make your dreams come true.